Today, we're fortunate enough to be joined by Bert-Arjan Millenaar, CEO and founder of NLC in Europe. Based in Amsterdam, this particular venture building operation has successful in raising recently 200 million euros for their cluster of biotechs, medtech, digital, and pharma startups. I'd like to welcome Bert. Hello, Bert. I'd like you to start introducing yourself, please.
Yes, thanks, Stephen. Bert-Arjan, it's even in Dutch too complicated, so people call me BA. Dutch CEO, founder of NLC, and 52 years old, and there's a lot happened the last 52 years. So what do you want me to focus on?
Okay, so let's start with your professional background and how you ended up where you are today, because you've got an extensive background for a 52-year-old man.
Yeah, well, thank you. I think most people do have so. So I studied agricultural economics, did a bachelor, then I did a master in economics. I started to work in the telecom industry because I like the tech component of it. In the heydays of the dot-com era. I started in the Netherlands, then lived for a while in Dublin, and a long time in Brussels. Enjoyed a lot of international experience. Started with a big corporate, then I moved to a mid-sized company, and I thought the next step in my life, I want to do it myself. I want to jump in. So I started a company, a startup, and it went up really fast and it went down even faster. So I learned it the hard way, the really hard way, and you don't want to be there. So I lost all my money, I lost part of my self-confidence, and oh man, that was a tough time. And I kind of had to recover, and I started to work for a strategy consulting boutique in Amsterdam, advising boardrooms on the long-term perspectives.
Now, how did that pathway get you to NLC?
Yeah, so in the boardroom consultancy, they ask for the long-term perspective, right? So you do an analysis with a team, a lot of interviews, and of course, we cannot look 5 or 10 years ahead, but always an item was, how can we increase our innovation power? How can we, because we failed in the past, and what can we do? Because you have to adapt, right? It's you have to either adapt or you die. And I was struck every time again that a corporate cannot innovate. They failed over time. There are no successful innovative corporates. And I look at the autonomy of it as a why. Why is that? And I think there's a very good reason. If you are a good manager, if you are a superb manager at a corporate, you should not innovate. Because innovation is starting small, taking a lot of risk, trial and error. And if you have responsibility of 100 million, 500 million, a couple of billion turnover, you cannot pivot seriously in your value chain, because if you fail, you mess up the whole value chain, right? So the antibody within a corporate is very, very, very strong. And there's another element. If you pivot and you have to overcome all the burdens of innovation, and there are a lot of burdens because it will never ever work out the way you think it will work out, you have to adapt, you have to change, and you have to work hard, and you have to be flexible in your mind. And there has to be something in you that you want to take that suffering almost, right? And most entrepreneurs, they have a skin in the game. They know, okay, I've got a purpose, I want to change the world, I want to do it, and then I have the impact and I have the financial return. But that kind of intrinsic drive you cannot have in a corporate, because the financial benefit cannot be arranged within a corporate, right? So the structure in the corporates makes it difficult to innovate, and that's all fine. Brilliant people working at corporates, passionate, working really hard, but just the structure is not suitable for startups. So that's one line of, I think, one pillar why I started NLC. The other pillar is that I had a sabbatical, and I think you're Australian, Steve, right? I had a
Yes,
sabbatical in Down Under. I loved it. What a great country with great people. And I was contemplating about my life and about next steps I want to take. And then I thought, well, what I really, really, really like, what energized me, is working on the future with optimistic people and create new stuff. A little bit naive as well, but let's create. So I thought I have to be in innovation. Corporates cannot do it, so I have to do it myself. And then I took a little bit more, and that's the big advantage of a sabbatical period in the other side of the world from our perspective, from the Netherlands. And I thought, yeah, innovation is really harsh. Can we do it at scale to lower the burden and increase the chance of success? And with that idea, I looked into the market, where are the biggest challenge? And I thought the biggest challenge by then are either climate or in the healthcare industry. And 8 years ago, the climate green tech was more focused on the big solar wind parks, capital intensive. And then the world's biggest innovation market by far is healthcare. Extremely fragmented. So there I was in the other side of the world, and I thought I have to do something in innovation at scale. That was the starting point. Sorry for this long answer.
Yeah, I went to a presentation you gave a few months ago in Amsterdam, and you talked about healthcare being the biggest game in town. And I thought that was a very poignant moment for me when I suddenly realized it is the biggest game in town, because it's where most people are employed at this point in time. And I think that what you've been able to do is quite remarkable with creating. How many companies have you got in the organization now?
Active 85, and we did build 110. Yes.
And you recently had a successful round of financing, I believe.
Yes, financing is ongoing in our period, but we did the first close of our new flagship funds, the Health Impact Fund. Yeah.
Well, congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Tell me, how does the company work? How does the organization work? Do you go out and seek new innovation? Do you go out and seek new ideas at universities? How do you operate?
So let's go back at the basic assumption. So we say the world needs innovation, right? It's the way how we operate our healthcare system is not sustainable. Everybody knows. Interesting enough, 8 years ago, the talk of town was the costs are getting too high, so we need to manage the cost. These days, I don't hear that many people about the cost. It's more about the enormous shortage of healthcare workers. So we need to innovate, but there are serious burdens to innovate. And we believe you have to do it at scale. So having built more than 100 ventures is not because you want to build 100 ventures. No, we believe the more you build, the better the decision you can make, right? You can provide all the CEOs with more support. That's one. And the second thing is you can create better partners. So then the question is, what is scale? So we started in the Netherlands, and now I'm answering your question. We started in the Netherlands with a technical academic hospital, then a technical university, and then a corporate. And slowly we expanded it, and we are now active in 13 countries. And the technology is coming from the groups I just mentioned. And we just started with a little bit ideation, and that's more in the digital health space. So we have artificial intelligence machines running to scan a PubMed, medical publications. We've got artificial intelligence running patent databases. And we've got account managers. Within our group we employ 80 people. We have 24 nationalities, and they are in touch with local players. So dominantly in Europe, but our fastest growing geography is the United States. Yeah.
So you take a company or you take an idea, and how do you then commercialize that?
That's a brief question with a very long answer, right? So we see about 3,000 innovations a year, and they are analyzed. I just told you my background, right? Agricultural economics, telecom. So I know I'm ignorant. I don't know the space. And I think that is a very important given since inception of NLC, that I don't know the space. So we have to organize around it. So we have a lot of skilled colleagues who know, but more important than the 80 full-time employed people at NLC is our network. So the medical specialists who will say, well, this will not work, or the corporates or the clinical trial experts who will assess. So these 3,000 innovation, we bring them back to 20, 30 ventures we build per year. And what is building? So we look for, is it a serious solution for a serious problem? And do we think we can make a business case out of it? Because you can have a beautiful solution, but if there's no business case, it's doomed, right, from the start. So if it survived all the filters, then we make a deal. We take a license and we set up a company. Yeah? So we make an LTD or an SRL or a GmbH or whatever, wherever we are. We create a company, then we have 4 internal headhunters and a network of headhunters. And we're going to look for a candidate who can bring the technology from A to B. And just bear in mind, but I think you realize it, that from inception to a successful commercialization, on average, you need 4 different CEOs. 4. So there's a complete misperception in the VC industry that they say, no, the CEO has to own a majority. The biggest failure of startups is that the CEO has a majority because he or she will not be competent in 2 years' time. Great person, but not fit for the job. So we look for a match between technology and a challenge for the next 2 to 3 years, and there we recruit a person. We measure it in technology readiness level. We start typically on 3 or 4, and the commercialization, what you're talking about, is technology readiness 8, 9. It might take 3 years, it might take 8 years before we reach that point.
You've had some amazing success stories recently, I think. Would you share some of those with the audience?
Yes, if you build a high number, there are always success stories. Having said that, it's a tough industry, right? It takes a long time. The financing landscape is really tough in Europe. Nevertheless, we've got some very successful ventures. I think one is Nicolab. It's a little bit related to Australia as well, because it has become an Australian company. And why? Because Australia is so big and they need more remote care than anybody in the world, and there's more risk capital available. So what Nicolab does, if you had a stroke, you undergo a CT scan. Now, current practice, the doctor has to make an assessment, and that takes time, and the doctor is not available, and it's a human interface, right? So this team of 2 professors, 4 PhDs, they did a long-term study, and they've proven they can make a better decision than the doctor, and they gain 44 minutes, and that's massive if you have a stroke, and massive. So based on this serious solution for a serious problem, they now have a global distribution, selling all over the world, supported by Philips, and impacting serious life. I mean, if I had a stroke or my mother had a stroke, I really hope the hospital has a Nicolab.
Yes.
Another story is, so this is more in the digital space, and other story is Concord Neonatal, for premature babies. I've got a premature daughter myself. She's doing all fine. She's now 9 years, happy kid. But she had to be an incubator for a month. And I'm grateful for the support she had by then, but if she would have been born in the same hospital today, she would not be in the incubator anymore. And that's massive. Only Concord make me so proud that it's whatever for the rest happens with the other 100 plus ventures, this is already great success, because I wish all the parents to have a great start. And Concord is now selling in 8 countries, 60 hospitals. But if we talk again in 3 months, it will be 10 countries and 200 hospitals. So they're scaling fast.
The company has an amazing CEO.
It has. Yeah. Both Nicolab and Concord both have female CEOs.
That's right. They have female CEOs and they're both amazing.
Yeah, they are. Absolutely. Absolutely.
You also have an amazing woman heading up your digital portfolio, Ciara.
Yeah.
I think she's quite an amazing woman. She's a medic and she has a great interest in the development of digital healthcare. She has an amazing team of people.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. Now we have an amazing bunch of people. And why do people want to work for NLC? It's a true impact driven. Let's do it together, because we really believe none of us is as good as all of us. We have to do it together. No egos, just bring this science to life. Realizing it's tough. So I just told you a great story about Nicolab and Concord, but I can tell other stories of Nicolab and Concord as well, about the challenges they had to overcome. And that's a culture we try to create.
I've been and met many hubs across Europe and the UK. And the one thing that really impressed me with your organization was the people and the team spirit amongst them and the absence of ego. I thought that you're right about the comment pertaining to we're better as a team than we are as individuals. I think that's very pertinent. There's a great positive spirit there in Amsterdam, and the difference you're making to literally millions of lives across Europe and now the US and Australia. So I'd like to commend you on this startup, as you call it, which has turned into a very successful organization of very positive, intelligent people. And I wish you all the very best for the future. I would encourage anyone to make contact with BA if they have an interesting idea, or they're a venture capitalist, or they just want to find out more about how to invest in this particular organization, because I think it's going to make an enormous impact on the world. BA, is there anything else you'd like to add before we leave the podcast?
Well, we didn't discuss it, but thanks for the kind words. And you just mentioned if anybody wants to invest, we will start a crowdfunding campaign September 1st. And that's a little bit, it's all about the democratization of healthcare innovation as well. So we have got big investors pouring in millions in our funds and in NLC ourselves. But for us, the ecosystem and doing it together is very important. So we have 1,100 medical specialists who invested in NLC. And I really like it, because we will help them, they will help us. I think that's a great mix. So we will share the information with you. It's going to be a WeFund campaign September 1st. Anybody's invited. Small tickets, €1,000 onwards.
All right. Well, I want to wish you all the very best, and I look forward to staying in touch with you and seeing what I can do to help.
Appreciate it. Yeah. Thanks. Looking forward to it. Yeah.
Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye-bye.